What's up, YouTube? How y'all doing today? Hope y'all are doing awesome. Back today, another video. Today we're going to be working on the Grand Caravan again. It's been on a few shows, but today what we're going to be doing the spark plugs. Been getting a cylinder 1 misfire, sorry, the PO301 cylinder 1 miss. I've been in there. I've switched out the coil and the injector, and it's still in cylinder 1. So what we're gonna try the spark plugs first before I go in and try messing with any of the cams or anything like that. I've got the cams. I can do that in another show if needed. I'll make another video on that so that you guys can see how to do that. But for today, we're just gonna do the spark plugs. And in order to do that, you have to take off this upper intake piece to get to them, because they're all like right underneath on both of them. So you got to kind of pull that off, which can be intimidating to some. It's not too bad, but so I'm going to show you guys how to do that so that you guys can do that on your own and not have to feel like you have to take it somewhere, because it's 2.5 to 3 hours in order, at a shop, and they're, $150 to $200 an hour. You're a good chunk of change just to have somebody do this for you. That it's not too bad. So anyway, we're going to set up and we're going to get working on this, and I will show you what to do. And while we're in there, I can also do a compression test on a couple of the cylinders, see if we got compression. It's always a good idea when you're in there. I didn't do that before when I switched out the coils, but I switched out number 1 and number 2 coils, and then I switched out number 1 and number 3 injector to see if it would change, and it's still on cylinder 1. So we're going to have to go in there. We're going to at least change spark plugs. I didn't do anything with the spark plugs, so we're going to try that first. If that works, I'll clear the codes, drive it. If that doesn't work, then we'll dig in there a little deeper, and I will definitely do videos on that, show you guys how to change out the lifters and the rockers and the camshafts and all that. So I've got the part, so I might do it anyway. If you want, just leave a comment, let me know down below if you want to see that. Before I begin, I'd like to thank everybody for watching. Thanking the sponsors of the show, which is, well, me. I pay for all this. I don't have any sponsors. Nobody helps me out. All that helps me out is y'all, the viewers, and I appreciate every single one of you. So if you wouldn't mind, subscribe if you like it, like what you see, want to see more. Hit that subscribe button, thumbs up. You know the drill, all the YouTube stuff. I do have channel memberships. You can click that if you feel like joining the members. I don't have any members yet, but if you feel like joining, that would be awesome. There's also that super thanks button if you feel like making a small donation or whatever. That'd be awesome as well. But if not, just hit that subscribe button. Costs you nothing, helps me out a ton, and I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, enough of the rambling. Let's get on with it. Alright, so let's get started on this. First thing you want to do is you want to get this air filter box off. Get that kind of out of your way. I got lots of projects on this van. I need to kind of take it on a long trip, so I got to do a lot of stuff to it. So I'll put that on all on record so you guys can see how to do things and what we're up to. And I got to take it on a little bit of a longer drive, so get that out of the way. And then there's just a flathead screw right there, or an 8mm. Might have to grab a socket for that one, because I don't have a stubby screwdriver. You need kind of a shorter screwdriver to get up in there. It doesn't quite reach in there at the right angle, so I'll find one of those. Alright, so here's the ratchet. I use wobbles. I mean, that's a snap-on wobbly. But I'll leave links to all this down below. You don't have to buy snap-ons, but I will definitely leave links to all the tools I'm using, and all the sizes and everything. I'll leave links to all that below, and everything that you'll need to do it, I'll let you know. So this 8mm or a flathead and a 1/4-inch ratchet, preferably. And you don't necessarily need wobbles, but they do make it a lot easier to use wobblies. So, but it's not necessary. You can just grab a shallow or a deep socket. Pretty sure I got one of those down in here too. Yeah, you can just grab a little 8mm deep socket. Will work for most of this, but you do want 1/4 inch drive, because when you're coming down in to get your bolts out of here, they're a little, the 3/8 drives and 1/2 inch drives are just too thick, so you're going to want 1/4 inch drive. But anyway, and then what you do, you just lift this up like so, and then you just kind of pull it off of here like that. And then let's see if I can zoom into that a little bit. And then we just got all these little plugs need to be unplugged. Unplug this here. Unplug this one. Some of them might have a little red lock tab on them. Let's see if I can show you that a little better. Sorry about that. It's just this little lock tab. Sometimes you got to pop that up so you can push the clip in. Like, see on that one there, it has that little red tab. It's just a little red locking tab. Kind of got to pull that out sometimes in order to release it. I've already had these out, so I didn't relock those. If you're doing this for the first time, makes it a little easier. You know, you have just a little pick, a little pick like one of these. Just a little clip pick, a little 90-degree, and just to pop that clip out. That really works pretty good. So anyway, once you get all that, got this little hose here. Needs to come off. Let's grab like a screwdriver or something to pry that off with. This little one back here. You got a little vacuum hose back here. That just pops off. This one here should just pull off, just like that. I've already had these off, so they're a little easier. Once I get, you know, for your first time taking this off, they might be a little stiffer. You might need to grab a little pliers or something, or screwdriver to dig at them. But seems how I've already had this off, it's a little easier. And then to get this off, we've got some 8mm bolts down here. You can also use the Torx if you need, but they're just across here. And then you've got this little bracket piece back here that I've left off, but there's 10mm bolts or 10mm nuts like right back here. Can't really see very good. I'm gonna have to get my light, but there you can see that little stud right there. You got 10mm here, and then down below there's a 13mm. Your bracket just goes on like this, and then you just grab like a ratcheting wrench, get those off. Then the 13mm, you just want like an extension with a socket on it. And that's that. And then you've got this little bracket up here with some 10mm nuts on that, right down in here. Again, just a 10mm ratcheting wrench. But again, I've left the nuts off of that, which I don't recommend that. You know, don't put the nuts back on just because, you know, are they totally necessary? No. But you didn't hear that from me. Put them back on. Just make it easier on yourself. Avoid any other kind of issues that you could potentially have. I think you'd be okay, but you didn't hear that from me. All right. Total disclaimer there. All right, now on to the other bolts that we need to get out. Let's see, where are my... Thought I grabbed more extensions than that. Looks like I did. That's not the right size. Grab this one here. So you grab your extension and 1/4 inch drive, 8mm. Again, like I said, make sure that 1/4 inch. And you can use power tools on these, which is not a bad idea. It it'll make your job go a little quicker. I have one of these. Just a Milwaukee Fuel impact or ratchet. Or you can even use just a 1/4 inch one of these guys. Just make sure you keep it on like the lower setting so you don't strip out the bolts or break something. But in this case, I'll do it by hand. But to save some time, you can use some of these to get them off. I don't recommend putting them back on with these because they do need to be torqued. But to take them off, you can use these power tools. I'm not going to do that just for the sake of the video. And not everybody has those tools, so that's another thing, is you may not have access to power tools. And these bolts may not come all the way out. They're kind of like stuck in there. I don't know if you can see that very well. I will pull this out of there, and they kind of have a little lip on them so they don't come all the way out. It's loose, but it just won't come all the way out of the manifold, and that's kind of a good thing. So you don't lose them, and you don't, make sure you get them all put back in the same spot. They all go back pretty much in the same spot. They're all the same length, so it doesn't really matter. And if you do get them out, you just pop it back in. It's not that hard to pop back in if it does come out, but they just don't come out very easy. Then you've got one, I don't have my flashlight, but you got one down in here, and then you've got one down here, you've got one down here. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've got one underneath this thing here. So we got to get this little piece here off as well, like that. This has been broken. It's, you know, it'll break like almost every time. And sometimes these are a little tricky to get out of there. You got to kind of wiggle it out a little bit. And that being said, you can get back to those three there. You don't have to pull off the whole intake to get to the back ones. If you were just doing a quick rear, just like a check, like if you were just checking it, switching coils, you could just do that, because this one here is your number 1 and this one's your number 3. So if you're just doing that, you can get back to all 3 of your coils here, but you just can't get to these front ones. So the front ones, if you're changing all the spark plugs, you have to pull this intake off. So that being said, if you're just checking, if you have a cylinder 1 misfire and you want to switch out 2 coils, pull that, and then you can get just switch those 2 coils right there. But I switched out injectors too, so injectors, you got to pull this whole upper intake off. But anyway, that's that. Back onto that. Like I said, there's just a few bolts here and you're good. All right, got you set back up there so I can work. Let me grab a drink of my dew. And then we will proceed. Down to this one. And again, like I said, those 2 brackets, these 2 up front and that one back there, I've already got off. You're gonna have to take those off. It's not super hard. It's a little tricky to get to some of them because you got stuff in the way down in here and around there, but it's doable. Down here. And it's not a bad idea when you take this off, especially if it's been on the car a while and you've never replaced it, to get the intake manifold gaskets. Again, not necessary, but definitely not a bad idea. And then just that, there's 7 bolts. And then you lift up the back end first because of how these studs are in there, so you have to kind of lift it up backwards, and then you can pull it on out. And that is all there is to it. And then from here, you just got your coils right there, all pretty easy to get to. You've got your front coils, your back coils, At this point, we're pretty easy. I can show you how to do compression, but to get the valve covers off, if we have to go that route, I'll do another video on going down into your cams to look at those. And take a feel on these. If they kind of stick up a little bit, you can kind of feel them. They're still a little rubbery and kind of stick up. Because sometimes these can even cause your misfire if they're leaking vacuum. They feel okay. I've got them with my kit, so I might just throw new ones in just because I have them. But not totally necessary, but definitely not a bad idea. Change those out while you're in there. But anyway, we will start yanking out those spark plugs, and they are kind of the same thing. You've just got these little, well, these don't have the little tabs, but you just push down on that and pull it out. Push down on that, pull it out. And then you've got just a 10 millimeter, and then they slide right out. And if you're having an issue with like a misfire and you're trying to track it down, like say you have a misfire on this cylinder, just mark it and then mark another one and then switch them. And then go back in and see if your misfire changes. If your misfire changes to here, then you know you've got a bad coil. And then if you want to pull off your injectors, you've just got these plugs here. You've got these 4 bolts here, and your injector rail comes up. And then you can change injectors kind of the same way. Just don't switch it to the same one. Like if you got a problem here, just put the coil here, but put the injector here, so that you know if it changes to this cylinder, you know it's an injector. If it changes to this cylinder, you know you've got a coil. If it stays same cylinder, then you've got something else going on, which is kind of where I'm at. But I never looked at the spark plugs. I just switched the coil and the injector. And so now I'm going to go a little deeper. I'm going to check compression, and I'm going to look at the plugs, change the plugs, clear the code, drive it. And if that don't work, then we're going to dig a little deeper and pull off these valve covers and check out the cams and all that. So anyway, I will get onto these spark plugs. I'll put you back in the tripod and start pulling out these spark plugs. Okay, so we're going to unplug these rear ones here. Plug very good. Sometimes you gotta dig down in there real good. That one, there we go. Okay. And this one, I'm just gonna use my little power ratchet. Get these out, save a little time. Make sure you don't lose your bolts. And it doesn't necessarily matter, but try to keep them in the same order you took them off, just in case, you know. I mean, it's not necessary. If they're good, it doesn't matter. It just, you know, you just put them back in that same spot, just because you put them back in the same spot. Just, if for no other reason, for misfire diagnostic purposes, put them back in the same spot. That way you don't create other misfires in other cylinders when you're trying to track something down that if you're not paying attention. And for the spark plugs, you should just be a 5/8 spark plug socket. I use wobbles. I like the wobbly ones. I've got the non-wobbles, but I prefer the wobblies. That's just me. It doesn't really matter what one you use on this one. Some of them do, but this one doesn't really matter. You just use a straight one if that's all you've got. And then you're going to need an extension and just a hand ratchet. These you don't want to put power tools on. Taking them out may not be as big a deal, but putting them back in, you don't want to use a power tool on them. That one wasn't very tight. So this is the one I was having a misfire problem on. So we'll look at this plug and see what it looks like. not like overly horrible, but not great. I mean, got a lot of gap there. So yeah, I don't see anything super out of the ordinary, but it definitely is due. I mean, I will definitely say that it's due. So you compare that one to a new one, what the new gaps should look like. The new gap should be, see how there's a lot less gap there. That one has a lot more gap. I mean, I don't know if those are, yeah, see the difference there in gap. So it's definitely due for a change. Hopefully this fixes the problem, but we're gonna give it a try and find out. That's for sure. But again, like I said, if not, if I have to go a different route, then we will show you how to do that. If I have to go deeper and take these valve covers off, I'll show you how to do that and get down into the cams and check that out. But let me pull a couple more of these, and then we can do a compression check on it just to make sure our compression is okay. To do that, you gotta get a compression gauge. Again, I'll put links to that. You can go to your part store. Most of them rent them out, but if not, they're not too bad. I'll leave links. Like I said, I'll leave links to everything you need to do this. So this one's a lot tighter than that one was. That one came out pretty easy. So maybe it was just a spark plug that was our problem.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah, see, that one's not looking all that great either on your gap. That one, I mean, again, nothing like too out of the ordinary, but definitely due, that's for sure. But anyway, I will keep taking these out and we'll take a look. We'll put them in. Okay, on to the next one. Again, I hope this is just the problem, but we'll see. So I may just put you back on pause here, do kind of the rest of these off camera so you're not sitting here bored watching me pull plugs. And then I'll show you what they all look like, and then we'll put them in, and then we'll go back together. So we'll get this last one out, and then we'll do these front ones off camera just because you don't need to be bored just watching me pull plugs. Yeah, that one's about the same. I mean, they're all looking about the same, so I'm kind of thinking that, you know, it definitely needs them. Maybe, like I said, hopefully we'll try it, but okay, I will put you on pause, do the rest of these off camera, and I will show you what they look like, put the new ones back in, hook everything back up, and go from there. Okay, now these three definitely looked a little worse. I mean, I wouldn't say that one's probably the worst, which I don't know why I was getting a cylinder 1 misfire based on some of these. That one's probably the best one out of, you know, which they're not great, definitely, but they're not, I didn't see one particular issue one necessarily. I didn't see one that was like definitely a problem. Sometimes you check for like cracks in the porcelain there. A little hairline crack will cause misfires, but I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. And I was only getting a misfire like at highway speeds, like throttle, like when I was putting it down to get around someone or something. It's really the only time I really felt a misfire. If I drove it like normal, like your grandma would drive or whatever, I wasn't really getting misfires. It was actually running pretty good. So that's why I'm thinking, I don't know if it's anything major. I did buy the parts, spent a lot of money on parts, but I will, if I can always send them back. I haven't opened anything, so if I have to send them back, I'll send them back. But anyway, check the gap. I don't know what the gap is. It might say on your tag here what your spark plug gap is. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But usually they'll come pre-gapped, and sometimes they'll have a little piece of cardboard on it to help keep the gap from being closed up. But double check your gap. Make sure you've got gap in them before you throw them in. If it gets dropped, it'll lose the gap, and then you're going to have problems. But double check that gap. Make sure you can gap them. Look it up. I don't know what the gap is. I usually just throw them in, because usually, unless there's one that's been dropped, then I'll gap it. But I usually don't gap them. Most of the time they come pre-gapped, but not always. And as far as, like, some people like to put anti-seize on the threads, I don't. Because if you get, like, especially the silver stuff, it can cause misfires, because it causes a... So it can. So do what you want. If you want to put anti-seize on them, by all means. But if you do, I prefer the copper stuff, not the silver stuff. But some people do, some people don't. And also dielectric grease. Maybe put a little dab of that. I don't have any on me. It's in my toolbox. But you just put a little dab of dielectric grease in the tip of your boot. Helps kind of helps with the connection on it, to help keep it, have a good connection, and help so it comes off easier next time, and just stuff like that. It helps. It's not necessary, but it can help a little bit. So, and they just have to be, just good and snug. They don't have to be like excruciatingly tight. Just get them nice and snug. Throw these in, all 6 of them. Like I said, I just use a small little stubby ratchet. You can get your whole hand on it. They just go till it's kind of hard to turn, and then that's good enough. They don't have to be like, they don't hold the car together. They don't have to be extremely tight. So we'll get going on the rest of these, and there's one. Looks like I'm missing one. This one I already had out. But yeah, don't use power tools on these, especially putting them in. Take them out isn't as big a deal, but still I recommend don't use power tools. I mean, that's up to you. If you think you can do it, go ahead. I've seen people do it. Don't recommend it in or out with spark plugs. Just take them out by hand. Yeah, it takes a little longer. I've seen some people that, commission techs that take them out with power tools. I've even seen people put them in with power tools. It's like, don't do that. Do that at your own risk. Don't do that because I said to do it, because I'm telling you don't do that. So, anyway. Oh, this one looks like it could have been dropped a little. See that box is all kind of smashed up. Double check your gap. Make sure it didn't. Yep, looks good. Why does that one look like it's already been installed? That one looks like it's already been installed. That's not cool. Better work. Yeah, that one looks like it had already been opened and installed and sent back, because may not have been the problem or something, so they sent it back. Not good. But at this point, what can I do? It's still better than the old one. Doesn't look like it's like been fouled out or anything. It just looks like it's been installed into a... Oh, now I get my socket stuck in there. Okay, and if you get your socket stuck in there, like I did, it came apart like that, and the socket was stuck down in the hole. Just back it off a little. Socket should come right out. That happens. But anyway, again, I'll throw these front ones in off camera. Another one looks like it's been opened. All these look like they've been opened and installed. What the heck? Yeah, look at that. It's like that's just right out of the box. Already looks like it's been installed. Well, shoot. Yeah, these look different than the first two. Same part numbers, but they look different because they've got this little gasket on them, and I don't remember seeing that gasket on the old ones. Well, they're on the old ones. Okay, never mind. But they have been installed. These have all been, that whole box, these whole 4 of them have been installed. That's not cool. I don't know. I don't like that idea. See, that one's missing its gap. That one's been dropped and has no gap in it. This is ridiculous. I'm not very happy about that, but at this exact point in time, what can I do? But anyway, and if you get a gap, you know, I don't have a gapper, you just grab a little screwdriver and just grab a little screwdriver like so, and you know, open that tip and just pull that gap up a little bit. That is not cool whatsoever. I'm gonna have to go to my part store and have a little chit chat with those guys that, hey, you're selling me parts that have already been installed in a car and one of them didn't have a gap in it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Without having a gapper, I gotta guess. I should have thought about that I might have to grab a gapper so that I can gap these things, but I didn't realize I was going to get spark plugs that have already been installed. Anyway, I will put you off camera, throw these in, and then we'll show you how to throw this intake back on. It's pretty much the same way as taking it off. You can figure it out, but I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I was actually wrong. I was going to show you how to do a compression test. I just totally spaced that. Anyway, compression tester. You probably go, like I said, you can go up to your part store and they rent these out. You just need to grab just a little adapter. Some of them will thread in. They're all pretty much the same, but a little different. But this one, you just grab the hose that has the right fitting on it, and then you just screw that down into your hole. That's what she said. Screw that down in. If that's the right one or not. Make sure you get the right one. Not that one. This one? Nope, it's not that one. This one might need an adapter. Sometimes I don't like these adapters because they don't get... Sometimes these adapters stick in there. If you're using these adapters, you got to make sure it has the bolt style on there that you can get your socket down onto. Because sometimes these get stuck down in the hole, and if they get stuck in the hole, you're kind of in a jam. But anyway, so we will throw this on here. You just throw it on the end of the hose and make sure you get in there nice and tight. That way you want it to stay on the hose, not in the hole. So you want to make sure that's good and tight in there. And if not, you can get your socket down in there. Most of the time it's just your spark plug socket. Some of them don't come with that. Some of them are just like round and kind of so you can't get your socket back on it. It's like, I've had them stick down in there and they're no fun to dig out. So make sure if you have to use the adapter, you get the one that has the wrench style on it so you can get your socket on it. Anyway, just screw that down into your hole there. And this will tell you if you've got a cylinder problem, which doesn't necessarily tell you what cylinder problem, it just tells you that you have a cylinder problem. It doesn't tell you if it's down below or in your head, but it does tell you that there's a problem. There's other tests you can do to see if you do have low compression. Do leak down. A leak down will tell you if it's top end. But anyway, you put that on, and then I'm going to crank it over. I have a key. Let's see, where's my key? Key might be inside the house. I'll be right back. Okay, so after that, you get that all hooked up, you come and crank it over. Crank it like so it cranks over 5 or 6 times, 10, you know. so. And then check your gauge. Looks like we are at 120 roughly. Don't know if you can see that. I will get you off of there so you can see what your gauge looks like, which is pretty good. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to put it on a second cylinder. So our cylinder compression is good. So another good sign that it's not down in like head gasket or, you know, potentially a bad valve or something. So that's not a bad thing. So that kind of makes me think that hopefully that it's just spark plugs and not the rest of it. I mean, if you guys want to see the rest of it, I can do a video on doing that, but it may be a while if this works. I've got a long trip to take, and then this summertime maybe I can, when we get back, if this fixes my problem. See, that stayed on there. You want to make sure that stays on there. It sucks if it gets caught in that hole, because then you're, so make sure that comes back out with it. And this is a decentered kit, so it usually don't have problems. I do this for a living, so I buy a slightly better tool. But if you're just doing it once or twice, no biggie. If you're just gonna do it on one thing, I'd just go rent the tool. But anyway, let's throw this back together off camera. On the back, we'll button up the top end, and then we'll be good. But again, make sure you like the video, subscribe, help me out a ton. Costs you nothing to hit that subscribe button. Costs you nothing. Helps the channel out a ton. If you do feel like making a small donation, I pay for everything myself, so every little bit helps. That would be awesome. But again, if not, just a simple subscribe, thumbs up, comment, all that is awesome. But anyway, I'll throw these spark plugs back in, throw the coils back on, and get this top end buttoned up, and we'll go from there. Okay, all the plugs back in, coils. You can use your light duty power tools, but keep them on your, if there is a low setting, keep them on your lowest setting, and don't just sit there and like wail on them. I recommend to the untrained to do them by hand, but you can, just don't, like say, as soon as it hits, stop. You don't need to wail on it real hard. Just kind of give them a little bit of a, just barely, so you don't break something. Last thing you want to do is break something. So if you don't trust yourself with power tools, just do it by hand. You know, I recommend to, like I said, to the untrained person that doesn't do this a lot, I recommend by hand, just for safety's sake. That way you don't accidentally do something you don't want to do, because then you're just chasing other problems. So plug all these back in. And just for my sake, I switched them out again, or I switched coils over, so that just so that if that misfire comes back, I know what cylinder it's in. If it's still in cylinder 1, then I know for sure it's not coil, it's something else. You know, just for my sake, and you can do that too if you want to switch them. Just make sure you know where you switch them to, so that you know what the deal is that way. Because now if I get a cylinder 1, I know it's not a plug, I know it's not a coil. I switched the injector before, so I probably know it's not going to be an injector either. But I switched them out. Now if there's a problem, I'll kind of have an idea what the problem is. Okay, so now, like I said, it's a good idea to switch these out. I'm not going to at this point. I have them. But if I have to go in here deeper again, I'll switch those out, because I've also got the lowers and I've got the valve covers and the whole shot. So if I have to dig in there more, then I'll change them out. I don't want to change them out now and then have to go back in there and do the lower intake and all that, because I've got the lower intake and all that. So I'll have to take all that off. Anyway, you don't have to do that to do your cams. You don't have to remove that lower. But I've got the gaskets, and if I'm changing out all the gaskets, I may as well do all that. And I'll do videos on all that, so. But anyway, enough of the rambling. Let's Throw this back on, and you want to put these two front tabs in, these two front studs into those little brackets. Up front, I can remove you from here so you can see better. It's not really, you can't really see better because it's, but these little brackets right here, you want to make sure you put those studs in first, so drop it in front first, and then the back. Put it back up here where, and then I can zoom out. There we go. So yeah, so slip it into the front ones first, and then drop it down onto there. That should line you right up where you need to be. Again, these are, if I remember right, they're 89 inch-pounds. You don't necessarily need to torque them. They're recommended to be torqued, and it even says 7 to 9 Newton meters, which nobody does Newton meters, they do inch-pounds, and it's 89 inch-pounds. If not, just get them nice and, just kind of get them like snug. Again, they're kind of like the spark plugs. Don't hammer them down. Just get them good and, good and snug to where you can't really, with moderate pressure, you can't really turn them anymore, and that should be good. Unless you want to go out and get a torque wrench or have a torque wrench. If you have an inch dry torque wrench, or an inch-pound torque wrench, not inch dry, that would be way too big. Inch-pound torque wrench. If you have an inch-pound torque wrench, go ahead and torque them. 18 inch-pounds. I have one. I might double check after I'm done here, just to kind of show you how that works. If you don't know, and most of you may know, this isn't for, experts. I understand experts are out there, and I'm going to hear a little bit from them, but this is more for the people that don't know how to do this. So if you don't know how to do this, then this video is for you, and I can show you how to torque them. It's pretty simple, and all torque wrenches are different, but for the most part they're the same. But you go, I believe these are 89 inch-pounds. I'd have to double check, but sounds about right. I think the cams are a little tighter. I think they're like 18 foot-pounds, I think, something. Don't quote me on those specs, because I'm not 100% sure off memory. I've done them before, but I usually have the computer to look at when I do it. But anyway, 1/4 inch drive, inch-pound torque wrench. Flip it down there. Like I said, they're all pretty close to the same, but they're all a little different. So you just want to come into, see, 7 to 9 Newton meters. That's not much. See, there's 8.5 Newton meters. Oh, well, pretty close, I guess. But I'm going to go here to 80. 89. They'll have little numbers here. See, there's 90, just one below 90, 89. And then you'll put your, and then just kind of turn it, and it clicks. See, I'm already pretty much at 18 or more. They're not really turning on me, so I'm at least 18 or 81 inch-pounds, just by what I did. But just to be on the safe side, if you feel like torquing them, see that one turned a little. It's just if you don't trust yourself, grab a torque wrench. Places will rent them out. They'll buy them. You can buy one, or places will rent them. Or see if you have a neighbor that can borrow it, that you can borrow one from. And that's pretty much that. Then we just hook up our air box, plug our wiring back in, and then clear codes, go drive it, see if that works. I think I'll cut you off here. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope this helps. I know you can do this. It's pretty simple. From here, you should be able to figure out how to get that air box back in. There's no clamp on this one. It's just a rubber boot. Just pop it on. Air box for the filter tube goes on there. Make sure you plug everything back in. And you should be good to go. You can put those brackets back on. I recommend it. Those nuts back on those brackets I showed you earlier. Put those back on if you want. Not 100% necessary, says me. Other people I may catch a little grief and whatever, but says me, they're not 100% necessary. So do what you want. Anyway, really appreciate it. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, help the channel out hugely, and I'll see you in the next one.